Welcome back to the Goat Marketing Show. I'm Nithya and I'm here with Doug Foley.
Hey, everybody.
And today's episode is about why Doug hates SEO so much.
It's funny. You can tell we're wearing the same shirts as the previous episode because I was so heated up after we wrapped up the one we were talking about the fundamentals for growth and why people don't need to run ads or SEO. And long story short, like when I first started, it was because a friend of mine came to me and said, hey, we wanted to do some SEO for our company. And that's kind of where I started my first agency and got my feet wet in digital marketing. But the truth is, so much has changed that SEO was almost just the acronym for people to say, hey, I have a digital marketing problem, or I have an awareness problem. And they quickly jumped to paying some agency, thousands of bucks per month with no real results. And that's the core of why I hate SEO is so many people assume that it's this magic silver bullet, and it's not. It drives me crazy. And, I get frustrated by small business owners, especially that get taken advantage of by people promising, hey, I'm going to get you to number one with Google. And a little over, I think a year and a half ago, I saw an article. It might be longer, but there was an article that came out called The Death of Seo. And it was basically by Michael Stelzner, who's the founder of Social Media Examiner. And he looked at the analytics, and the data was pretty clear. The first result that's on Google was getting less than a 50% click to the actual page. So if you spent thousands of dollars, got to number one, and still only had a 50-50 shot, to me, that was a pretty big waste of money. Yeah. Now, with that being said, there are certain industries, certain products, certain things that become important. But if I'm a small business owner or even, a large business, and I had to prioritize things on what do I need to do to drive business, and if I'm focusing 80% of my budget on something that's only got a 50-50 chance, it drove me nuts. Whereas if they could focus that same amount of energy to just learn the customer journey, figure out how do I provide value in the right order. And if you look at our first two episodes, episode 1 on the fundamentals, episode number 2 on how to sequence and build content, and how and why you don't need to run ads right away, those two episodes will give you enough information to just look at reverse engineering your marketing strategy. Figure out, before SEO, that's somebody who's kind of knowing what they want. They know, like, hey, I've got this problem, so I'm going to go to the search bar and I'm going to try to buy, whether I run ads against it, or I'm going to try to introduce concept. You need to be talking to your customers before they've identified the problem. You need to be the person or the company or the brand who has a relationship with them before they're ready to buy. Because if you're waiting for that moment when they're starting to look for something or that they're trying to figure something out, you're too late. Like, that's why, like, the second fundamental marketing for us is building an audience, building the relationship. And if I'm solely relying only on SEO, that's very transactional. That's, I had this moment in time where I had this specific problem and you solved it. It's a lot harder to build that relationship. One of the future videos we'll do will be on what's called the upside framework. And it introduces somebody who's unaware that a problem even exists, all the way down through becoming problem aware, understanding how to solve the problem, understanding the solution we as a company bring, and then ultimately a decision or deal. We'll go much deeper into that framework, but if you can understand the psychology of how people make decisions and how to sequence content, SEO starts to happen naturally. And much of what we're doing in this show and how we're building it, there are a lot of elements that are derived from SEO practices. And a lot of people will find us, which is a component of SEO. But it's not a live and die type scenario where, hey, we're going to do SEO and that's going to save our company. It is one of many growth levers, but the primary focus needs to move from showing up number one in Google to providing value and building an audience. And when you adopt that way of thinking, that completely changes how you scale and grow your company, because you build a portfolio of content that provides value and creates conversation. And if you think about it, like from the very core, you're taking attention to have a conversation with the hopes to sell or transact or have some type of transaction. That is marketing at its core. And there's no real quick way to hack that conversation that's going to have a lasting and meaningful result. Because remember, like most companies that are great and stand the test of time, they have built great relationship with their customers. They have a strong reputation. It's not because of, something simple that brought it in. SEO has its place. It can transform companies, but it's just not the silver bullet that most are hoping it is.
So it's almost more of an organic approach to have that audience be creating content that's relevant to them, which eventually drives them to your product instead
100%.
of just expecting people to arrive at your product.
100%.
Amazing. Well, there you have it, folks. This is exactly why Doug hates SEO so much.
Yes. We'll see you soon, everybody.
Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.